President Xi Jinping has met Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva on the sidelines of the China-Celac Forum. They signed a number of cooperation documents, with both countries pledging to defend global free trade and multilateralism. President Lula is on a state visit to China. Richard Lapper is a writer specialising in Latin America and Associate Fellow of the Global Economy Department at Chatham House.
I mean, it's fairly significant in the sense that it marks a growing economic and political relationship between Latin America and China, Latin America and the Caribbean and China. It is important. China's become the biggest trading partner for several Latin American countries, including the largest, Brazil, and that's been the case since 2009. These meetings started in 2015, so there have been four of them, and they've, each one, China's still there, it's growing its influence and its involvement in the region. And I think, in particular, at the moment, given the difficulties the region's experiencing with the Trump administration, this is seen as being a welcome sign of support and, an alternative source of funds.
So do you think China will actually end up being the dominant trade and investment partner, replacing the United States for the wider region?
I think that seems to be an inevitable trend as things stand, with possibly the one exception of the northern countries of Mexico and Central America that are more integrated with the US economy. But certainly for the commodity-rich south of the region, you're looking at countries like China and Brazil. You're looking at countries like Brazil and Chile and Peru, where their output of agricultural products like soya, copper, and iron ore is extremely important for China, and we're seeing steady increases in that trade.
And President Xi has announced more money for Latin American economies, promising to increase imports from the region. How much effect will that have?
I think it's, I think that the significant thing about this loan package, this funding package of $9 billion is that, it clearly will facilitate Chinese imports. The Chinese tend to offer more favourable terms to Latin American importers. It is less than was committed in the first of the CELAC meetings in 2015. It's about half as much. China's economy is slowing, there's less money available. And it is only available in yuan. So it is closely tied to, Latin America can only do certain things with this money. So yeah, it is going to be, I think, primarily geared towards Chinese products.
I want to ask you about something else which may well have a big impact on trade, this new bio-oceanic route, which is nearly complete with the help of China. What will the significance of this be, do you think?
Investment in infrastructure from China has been a theme of Chinese involvement in Latin America, since the beginning of the century, really, when the relationships first started to pick up. We've, not just in ports, which is probably the most significant development has been the development of this Peruvian port, Chancay, $10 billion development. There's lots of little smaller ports in the Caribbean region. There have been very significant investments in the smaller Caribbean islands, such as Antigua. And there's also, I think, quite important Chinese involvement in energy. So in the Brazilian and Chilean energy grids, in green energy, China's been a big exporter of windmills, solar panels, things like that are allowing countries such as Brazil to build up their green energy potential. So I think that's all these things hugely important. And China's moving into a space that, you might have expected, Latin America's more traditional partners to be more alert about.